Welcome back to Llama Life. Today we're going to be teaching you about training young llamas. Our crew today is a bunch of 2-year-olds. There are up-and-coming future studs, and they just turned 2. They have very little training up to this point. They got missed in their training because Bo had cancer last year. It's been extremely busy, so we're just a little bit behind. We're going to be working with them starting today, and we're going to work with them over the next couple of days. So get your notebooks out. This is going to be helpful information for when you train your own llamas. It's not an exact science. There's no one correct way to train llamas, but this is what works for us. So we're going to share it with you, and maybe it will work for you too. The first thing that we did that we didn't show on camera was that we caught them all, put the halter on, and we tied them up. It's important that they're all tied up. That way they can't run away from you. Now they're all in training mode. Every time I approach them, it's going to be a training from this point on. Today we're going to be working with Pancake. His name comes from a BHA event where his name was auctioned off to the highest bidder, and all proceeds went to public lands. Suerte, pronounced Suerte, but spelled S-U-E-R-T-E. He has one blue eye. Frankie. Frankie looks like he fell into a black can of paint with one leg. Chrome. He's tiny but mighty. He's got some of the biggest bones I've ever seen. Bonsai is one of the sweetest llamas that we've ever had. He's so fun to work with. Patron was birthed during a farm tour while 8 visitors to the farm watched. It took us a full hour and we were dripping sweat, but he came out safe and sound. Sherpa. Sherpa is a quick study. He learns so fast. He's very smart. Vulcan. We thought that his name was one of Jupiter's moons. Turns out it's a fictional planet from Star Trek. Solo. Solo is short for Han Solo from Star Wars. Strider. Strider looks like he's wearing shorts. Today we're not going to try to move mountains, we're just going to try to teach them 1 or 2 things. So the first thing that we're going to teach them is just to be pulled into our space with a gentle jig of our wrist. And once they're in our space, about an arm distance away, we're going to let them go. We're going to go through each llama and teach them that a couple of times. And once they're doing a good job, we're going to move on to the next one. Once all of our llamas have learned what to do, then we're going to teach them one more thing, and we're going to enter their space instead. So the first step that we didn't film was that we caught everybody, haltered them, and then we tied them up to these posts. You can stake them out if you want to, or however you want to contain your llamas at first. However, it's very important to watch your llamas very closely the first time they're on a long lead like this. They can get tangled up really easily, hog-tie themselves, fall over, strangle themselves. It can get pretty ugly. So definitely keep a close eye on them at first. Never just tie up a new llama and then leave them overnight. You may not come back to a well llama. This is Solo, and the first thing that we're gonna do with him is we're gonna do some trust training and just teach him to approach me on the lead rope. So I'm gonna start where it's attached here at our post, and I'm gonna pull him into me. So I'll pick this up at the post, and then I'm gonna just give him little tugs. And if he doesn't come, I'm gonna just give him a little jig like this. So we're gonna work on jigging him closer. That's just a term that we use, meaning little tugs. It doesn't work to jig on a loose rope like this because he doesn't understand what I'm doing. So I always want to make sure to pull it tight and then give your command. It also is very helpful to give a verbal and a physical cue at the same time. So I say, step, good boy, step, step, step. About an arm's distance away, I want him to stand on a nice loose lead and just be in my space. If he tries to jerk away, I'm gonna ask him for his attention again. Good boy. Once I'm done with that, I'm just going to let the rope go, and I want to be the one that walks away. We're gonna do that a lot of different times in a row. I wanna make sure that he understands that he needs to come into my space when I ask him. We're gonna do it over and over until he's really good at it. Then we're gonna add on to that. So let's go and see how Patron does. We're gonna go grab Patron and pull him in. See how he's all caught up on his rope? If I start pulling him into me right now, he's gonna get all tangled. So I'm gonna try to direct him away from that. So every time I jig, once I get his front foot to take a step forward, I'm gonna release all my pressure as fast as I can. So he stepped, I'm gonna release. Step, release. Pretty nice. It's okay for him to investigate me a little bit, but I don't want it to become an issue. So I want his focus on me, but his body doesn't need to be touching mine. I want him to just stand here on a nice loose lead. A lot of times in these first few tries, you're gonna have problems. They might step to the side, left or right, and you want them to come straight forward. They might take off, they might buck up in the air, and that's okay. You're gonna just try not to lose a lot of slack in your rope. Try and hang on tight, and we're gonna try to redirect, or if we need to, we're gonna start over, starting all the way from the end of your rope at the post, and try again. If he steps away from where I've asked him to be, I'm gonna just pull him back in. I don't want to adjust to him, I need him to adjust to me through this. You're trying not to lose any ground with these llamas, so if they try to take off running, I'm not a very big person, so if I stand up straight like a kite, I'm gonna fly away like a kite. I have to drop my weight, drop my hand low, and try to get their head down to the ground to stop them. If you're a bigger person, you may not have to do that, but that's what works for me. And if you get a good lip smack like the one you just saw, that means, okay, boss, I'm listening. You have my attention. Step. 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 All done. That's it. It's that easy. Let's do the next one. All right, this is Vulcan. Let's do it, buddy. Step. Good boy. Step. I know. You don't like it. Now I have something weird over my shoulder. Good boy. One more. Step. Good boy. Stand. Step. Always in a weird spot. Step. Step. You're getting too smart. All right, this is Frankie, and he really likes the rope to be behind his neck. It's fine as long as it's not wrapped more than just a half of one time, but it's not great for training. So I'm going to fix that before we begin. Now that we're untangled, I'm going to have him just approach me a little bit, and we'll start with the next step. Step. Head up in the air. Up. So naturally, Frankie wants to put his head to the ground and hide from me, and I hate that. It's not a good trick for like trying to hike on the trail or teach them to do new things, is if they try to bury their head in the ground like an ostrich. So what I usually do is I just lift the rope up in the air and tug them up. Sometimes a hand underneath that's making some kind of distraction helps. But you want to try to redirect that bad habit of putting their head down. Step. So one of the things that I look for, like I said, is when they put their head down to the ground and try to hide from me, I always pick it up. The next thing that they're gonna try to do is put it anywhere you're not. So then if they're not on their center line, if their head and their neck and their chest and their legs don't line up, if they're like totally sideways, then you're gonna pull them back to neutral. So it can be tricky, but you've got it. This is Chrome. He's one of my favorites. Step. Step. You're not stepping, you're just moving your head. Step. And again. Let's go, buddy. Step. Good boy. Step. Step. You're so cute, bro. Step. Strider's turn next. You have to take one step with those pretty long legs. Stand. Go smell me a little. Do it again. All right, we've got 3 more. This is Suerte with the blue eye. Our blue-eyed llama's blind. They are not. Hey, buddy. I think they carry that gene. They can carry the gene of deafness and blindness, but I've never had a blind blue-eyed llama. Hi, you are so friendly and spazzy. It's just my hair. Stand. This is Pancake. Good job. Step. Step. Good. You did good. This sweetheart, his name is Bonsai, and one of our good friends helped us name him. He's named a couple of this mommy's babies, so we have Bonsai and Ponderosa and Aspen. No, Aspen's not. Ponderosa, Bonsai, and Maple. So I want you to take a step, just one. Good job. Stand. So scary over there. I think the boys did pretty well today, but just as a quick review, the first thing that you want to do is just pull them into you, let them into your space. Step 2 is that you are going to then enter their space once they get to you, and you want them to stand still. Step 3 is that you want to be able to touch them all over their body. The boys are doing great. I'm happy with their progress, and we'll check back in tomorrow.